Zombie apocalypse.
Hello everyone and welcome to Player 2 Gaming. This is Matt, like always. We're going to take a look at a game that's been fairly polarizing since it came out. And I'm of course talking about Marvel's Avengers. It came out from Square Enix with Crystal Dynamics doing a lot of the heavy lifting on this one. And when it was first announced, a lot of people really were looking forward to the game, even though a lot of people also kind of deadpanned the game quite a bit, saying, such marvelous things as these were the Wish Avengers, these were the knockoff Avengers, just based on, what they look like and kind of what, how the gameplay was first unveiled. A lot of people kind of looked at it as, they wanted it to be the Marvel Cinematic Universe Avengers. Like, they wanted these Avengers to look like, Hemsworth and Evans and Downey Jr. And they weren't going to. And, like, that's part of the issue that I had with a lot of the hate that the game received, because people were hating on the game before it even came out. However, when the game finally did come out, there was a lot of hate about the game that seemed kind of warranted. You had a lot of development issues. You had a lot of gameplay issues that people really didn't enjoy, people really didn't get into. The overall game in of itself kind of lends it to, just a button mashing hack and slash kind of game. And that is probably where it suffers the most. And it's not necessarily because the game's narrative is bad. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. It has to do with the fact that the combat is the same per Avenger. Pushing the action button, you get light attacks, heavy attacks. Each Avenger has its own specials, that people can kind of look at and go, oh, hey, I remember when they did that, or I remember that from the comic books, I remember that from this and that and everything. But the problem, again, is that it's overly simplified. It's very much a game that, on one hand is fantastic because it allows, new gamers, young gamers to kind of get in there and kind of see it and feel it and actually become an Avenger. But the problem is that it's not enough with this game. Is that after playing for a few hours, you start to notice the repetitiveness. You start to notice, how it doesn't live up to continuing to make you feel like an Avenger. And in the beginning of the game, you play a lot as Kamala Khan, which, comic book fans probably know her best as Miss Marvel. She kind of took over the title after Carol Danvers became Captain Marvel in the comics, and she's really elevated herself as far as popularity and being a solid character. And I really enjoyed her quite a bit when it came to the actual, playing as her and the introduction of her and the way that she kind of is the lead-in character in this game for new people. But the problem with that is she's kind of also not really needed as the leading character. I mean, absolutely, let's put her in it. Let's have her be a pivotal part of the story. Let's have her be, a part of the Avengers, in context at least. But she is very much a non-necessary character. Any kind of introductory character this late in the game for Marvel is almost rudimentary. It's pointless. It's kind of saying, like, for the 500th time that we need to know that Peter Parker is the reason that Uncle Ben got killed. For the 500th time that Bruce Wayne lost both of his parents. I mean, we just don't need to know those things anymore. Those things have happened so repetitively or so often that even the most average audience doesn't need to know anymore. I mean, there's 26 movies that came out that built the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that had Captain America and Thor and Iron Man and Black Widow and Hawkeye and Hulk, in those movies, that having a side character introduce the characters again is just kind of silly to me. And couple that with the repetitive nature of the gameplay, it's very much a hindrance. Now, having said that, narratively speaking, if you are a fan of Marvel, the comics, the movies, or any of the previous games or anything like that, narratively speaking, this is a solid game and you need to play it. Especially if you're one that's kind of like, I like new content, I like new this, I like new that for the Marvel Universe. Narratively speaking, you need to check it out. Absolutely. Because the narrative is very solid and it's very enjoyable. And in the beginning of the game, you're going to get a lot of it, which I'm kind of torn on because I do love the narrative. I think the narrative is great. I think it is, very much a strong attempt by Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics to create their own Marvel universe with this kind of introductory game into the series. And it's because of that you should play the game, if for no other reason than narratively. If you happen to be on YouTube and find somebody who has piecemealed all of the cinematics together, sit down and take a watch. Honestly, in some way or fashion, you should definitely check out the narrative. Now, let's talk about some really glaring issues that I also have with this particular game. I've kind of talked about the repetitive nature of the combat and the gameplay and stuff like that. But this game also suffers from, DLC. And normally DLC is not a suffrage. It's a, hey, let's expand the game. Let's make it better. Let's do this. Let's do that. But this DLC in particular is very much cosmetic. It does nothing for your character. It does nothing for, the overall gameplay. It is just needless. It is absolutely needless. These are things that should be unlocked in the game. Like, you should be able to find X amount of, various collectible items throughout the game and then unlock this costume or that costume or anything like that. And as a matter of fact, today, they are releasing the Marvel Cinematic Universe Iron Man costume from the 2008 movie Iron Man. And I know a lot of people are really excited for that, and that's great and that's awesome if that's what you want to do in order to celebrate this game, you know, at least the narrative anyway, is by having those skins. That's awesome. You do you. But for me personally, it's such a blatant money grab. And I think we have too many games out on the market right now that are a blatant money grab. Fortnite. And, you know, those games are fine in of themselves, but I think a lot of people are really starting to take notice at how much of a money grab these games can be and have been. In addition to the needless DLC that the game kind of has, there is free DLC that the game has released that increases the gameplay, increases the narrative, and things like that as well. And those are great. Those are awesome. But you kind of feel like, due to the lackluster release when this game launched, that's the biggest reason we have this free DLC, as a way for the developers to maybe apologize for the way that they acted when the game came out. I know a lot of patches have been done, a lot of updates, and supposed leveling out of the game has been done. But I also, you know, have read several reports where people talk about how after a certain patch, the game very much becomes more of a grind in order to level your character up. To some degree, you know, you want a little bit of a grind in an RPG, but at the same time, you don't want what supposedly is the case for this particular game, and that is they halved all of the experience that you were getting to make it even more difficult. And supposedly, the consensus is the reason that happened is because of the deadpan release of the game. The fact that so many people were hating on it, the fact that so many people were saying that it was not a good game, that it was just terrible, that it was awful. And I can't say that it's awful. I cannot say that it's an awful game. It's a very mid-level kind of game. Like, it's sort of like Ultimate Alliance. It's sort of like, you know, other Marvel-based games, adventure-type games. It definitely does not live up to what they were saying when the development of the game was happening, and that's very unfortunate. That's very much another hindrance on this game, is the fact that it does not live up to what they said it was going to. And that sucks, flat out. Because again, narratively, this is a very solid game, and you should absolutely play it. And even though the gameplay does get repetitive, it can be fun for a little while in small doses. Maybe that's why the narrative encompasses so much of what you're doing in the game. But it's just the increased difficulty, the repetitiveness, the DLC issue, the lackluster combat system is also just it's highly frustrating, and just it infuriates. It infuriates, and it shouldn't infuriate, but it does. And again, I think the biggest reason is because this was supposed to be, you know, a very solid entry into the franchise. This new franchise that they were doing, and it just didn't. And I know that we have a new Guardians game coming, and I know a lot of people are really excited about that game, and I hope it delivers. where the Avengers didn't. I really do hope it does deliver, because I enjoy playing, you know, comic book superhero type video games. It's always fun to see the Easter eggs and the little nods to this, the little nods to that. While you're playing, it's always a good thing to have those types of experiences. But if anything, you know, if the Avengers shows anything or suggests anything, then Guardians may not deliver on the same level that you want. And it's because of that, you know, personally, I'm kind of holding off on Guardians. But that's for another review. That's for another day. I did want to take a moment and say that, let's see, let's do a scoring system real quick for this one. Even though it's not a real scoring system, let's give this 3 Goosebump books out of 4. And kind of see, I don't know, that would give it a really high score. How about 3 Goosebumps books out of Slappy World Adventure books? Yeah, those aren't that good. Anyway, so be sure to, if you have a narrative love of the Avengers, to check this game out. And I think it's on sale right now, so maybe $20 is worth it. Definitely don't pay full price. Absolutely do not pay full price. Thank you guys for checking out the video. Thank you for all of the likes and subscribes that you guys have been doing. If you by chance have stumbled upon this video and you have not yet subscribed or liked, be sure to do so. Any kind of help you guys give is much appreciated. I do these videos because it's fun for me, and the more that I'm able to put out, the more fun it will be for me and hopefully for you too. If you have subscribed and haven't hit the little bell notification, do so, because it gives you a heads up every time I release something new. Thank you guys, and I will check you in the next video.